Hello everyone, if you're new here, welcome. My name is Keisha and this is going to be the start of my spooky middle grade spooktacular reading vlog. I am so excited to be doing another spooky middle grade reading vlog. These are very few and far between on my channel these days, but if you've been around since the beginning, you know that spooky middle grade books have always held a very special place in my heart, and I have lots of middle grade and spooky middle grade books on my channel, like recommendation videos and things like that. You can find those in my middle grade playlist. I also used to host a spooky middle grade readathon called Bookathon, and I did discontinue that earlier this year. Our last one was in May, but it just so happens that me and a couple of friends, the gaggle of witches, if you know, you know, we decided to get back together to do a really short, fun, spooky middle grade 24-hour readathon. So I'm starting this a little bit early because I want to make sure to get through 2 books for this readathon, but technically this is taking place from Friday, October 11th through Saturday, October 12th, and it is hosted by my friend Gwen at Gwendolyn Kinsinger, as well as me, and then Gabby from Gabbing About Books. So I'm very excited to be back with my gaggle, to be doing this readathon, and I'm just really excited to read spooky middle grade again. So I'm going to tell you what 2 books I have on my TBR to read for this weekend. Again, I am starting a little bit early because I am like in my festive attire. I have like my Goosebumps shirt, which if you haven't already seen it, you can find these on Etsy. They're super cute. I love that it's Goosebumps, like the, you know, franchise, but it's like geese with fist bumps, and they have witch hats. Like, this is literally the gaggle of witches, except there's only 2 instead of 3. So I had to get that. But since I'm in my fall attire, I was like, I'm gonna go ahead and film the intro to this and tell you guys what I'm gonna be reading. The first book that I'm gonna be reading, I don't have yet. It is coming in the mail tomorrow, and that is The Night Train by Lorelei Savaryn. I've read 2 other books by this author and given both of them 4 stars, so I'm very excited to read her newest release. This one follows a girl, I think it actually follows twins, and their parents are part of this anniversary celebration of this train wreck that happened in this town. And I think there's like a lie that's been spread about what actually happened, and so there's like this ghost that comes back and they're going to unravel what really happened. I believe that their parents actually do renovations, like home renovations or something like that, in the area that this is happening, and that's how they kind of all get meshed up together. But I'm really excited because in my experience with this author, she does a really great job of tackling real life hard topics in a great way for middle graders to read, and honestly even for adults to read, because I've really gotten a lot out of her book. So I'm excited to read that one. And then I'm also going to be reading The Girl in White by Lindsay Currie. This is the final book by Lindsay Currie that I need to read that I have not yet read. I have read her entire backlist, and I am looking forward to her new book, It's Watching, which is coming out in early 2025. I do think I have gravitated a little bit away from this type of spooky middle grade, but every now and then I like to revisit it. Lindsay Currie typically writes more of like spooky ghost story, like legends and lore. Especially, I think most of her books are set in or around Chicago because that is where she's from, and she knows a lot of like local legend and lore and history from those areas, so she sets a lot of her books there, and I find that really interesting that she pulls from real life stories. And so this one, I don't think it's set in Chicago. It looks like it's set in a town called Eastport, but I'm not sure what state that's in or if it's a real place, but I will find out, I guess, when I read it. But this does take place in October around spooky season, so this is going to fill my prompt for reading a book set in or around Halloween. And then also this has something scary on the cover right there. And then my other book that I was talking about is filling the prompt of reading a 2024 release. So I'm making these fill all the prompts. But this book follows our main character. Her name is Mallory, and she has just moved to Eastport, which is one of the most haunted towns. Now, this town has a festival around this person called Sweet Molly, and there's actually a really chilling poem written about her. It says, "Sweet Molly once lived in Eastport. Sweet Molly once loved the sea. Sweet Molly lost Liam to the shadows. Now Sweet Molly is coming for ye." I don't know if I'm ready for this. It's clearly a haunted town, but I feel like Mallory maybe is going to be able to help out Sweet Molly. with her unfinished business, maybe, I don't know, and then help her pass along. But I know it's going to be spooky because Lindsay Currie's books do not shy away from that. So I'm excited to read this one and figure out where it falls in my Lindsay Currie ranking, which actually I may do a Lindsay Currie ranking in this video if I remember. So we'll see. Maybe I'll do that a little bit later. I don't still own all of her books because I've passed them along to people to read, but I may do a ranking of her books. But right now, I'm actually about to go to a movie with some old friends. If you have been around on my channel for a while, you will know that I used to host a middle grade book club with 8 to 12-year-olds in my area. I started out doing this as a children's librarian, and then after I resigned from that position, I continued for another year to volunteer my time to do this book club. One of the book clubs that we did was for The Wild Robot. So this is me and the kids 3 years ago when we read The Wild Robot. This was such a good book club pick, and it opened up lots of great discussions. As you can see in the picture, the kids also drew their own robot and told me kind of like what their different robots did, what special talents they had. And now I'm going to meet up with not all of the kids, but some of them, which now I'm like, they are still kids, but they're 3 years older and a lot of them have grown. And unfortunately, I'm not able to meet up with all of them, which breaks my heart. In all honesty, I wish that we could have gotten together at a time where everybody could be there, but I am going to meet up with some of the kiddos today and we're going to go see The Wild Robot. If I get a chance to film it all while we're there, I will try to, but if not, I will report back when I return. I felt like that was fitting to include in this video, so I'm going to go ahead and head off to the movie and I will see you all back soon. Hello everyone. So it is a couple of days later and actually the day before the official start of the Readathon. So I'm updating a little bit late, but again, it's not even really officially the Readathon yet, but I wanted to let you all know about The Wild Robot. So it has been 3 years since I read this book. So I can't tell you exactly if it's going to be, you know, to a T like the book was, but the movie, y'all, was so good. I highly recommend, if you have not seen it, going to see it and taking your family. It is such a fun kids movie, but there's a lot of things in it that I feel like adults will get and like relate to, especially if you are a mom. I'm not a mom, but I still thought some of the jokes were funny. So definitely check it out. It is such a sweet and wholesome movie, and you just don't see a lot of that these days. So highly recommend checking out The Wild Robot. And I inserted, I think, like one clip that I got while I was there and some pictures that you could see from the time that I spent with the kiddos. And it was just so fantastic. So that was really fun. And again, highly recommend it. I did enjoy the book when I read it, but I think I probably enjoyed the movie more. So that's that. And then I am about halfway through The Girl in White by Lindsay Currie because I did start my readathon early and I'm enjoying it. It is very atmospheric. If you like a good atmospheric ghost story, Lindsay Currie is always the way to go. Now, I, in this stage of my life, don't love ghost stories as much. I like there to be a little bit more depth to the stories, but I will say that Lindsay Currie tends to write heartwarming horror or cozy horror, so keep that in mind. But I do really enjoy the atmosphere. It's definitely very spooky, so if you're looking for a spooky ghost story that's based on like local legend or lore, I think you should definitely check this one out. But again, halfway through, and I'm curious to see where this is going to fall in my Lindsay Currie ranking. I have decided that I am going to try to rank her books for you, like based on, you know, my enjoyment of them, and kind of give you a little bit of info about them in case you want to check her out, because I think you should if you love horror books or like spooky middle grade, light ghost stories, things like that, but like that have heartwarming elements as well. So I think I'm going to do that, but I'm going to wait until I finish this book so I can more accurately give you guys my ranking. And so I'm going to do that. And I'll check in with you guys probably tomorrow, which is the official start of the readathon, because we are going to be having reading sprints and I'll be reading more and hopefully starting the night train. So I will keep you all posted. I have finished The Girl in White and I'm here to give an update on it. I don't really have a ton to say. I feel like I say very similar things about all of Lindsay Currie's books. She just is really good at writing heartwarming horror. I don't feel like this is like the most heartwarming of all of her books, because there wasn't as much at the end that like there was a really good story that was being told for this character of Sweet Molly, but I wanted a little bit more out of the ending, which I find that to happen a lot, which is why she's a pretty consistent 4-star author for me. And that's what I'm giving this book, is 4 stars. But I did enjoy this like spooky coastal town. It definitely has very like spooky season, fall, autumnal vibes. It is set around Halloween a little bit. So this town feels a little bit like a Halloween town, not Halloween Town like the movie, but like a Halloween town. They decorate and put lots of spooky things out. And so you'll absolutely get those vibes if you are looking for those in this book. She just does atmosphere really well. And again, heartwarming horror, though I'm always wanting just a little bit more depth with that, just a little bit more. But this is a really good story. I think most people would really enjoy this one. And I still need to do my ranking. So if I can remember correctly, we're going to go ahead and go from the bottom to the top of my ranking. So I don't have all of these books, so I'm just going to go ahead and pop up pictures on the screen. But my lowest on the totem pole of Lindsay Currie's books is going to be The Peculiar Incident on Shady Street. I think this one for me was a big issue with the audiobook because, and I will say the same for this, I would not recommend listening to the audio for these if you can help it. But I mean, if it doesn't bother you, then that's fine. But I don't like the narrator for the audiobooks. She's very whiny and I don't enjoy it. I don't like the tone that she uses and the different like, not accents, that's not the right word, but like the cadences she uses for different voices. But this one is more of like a graveyard ghost story. I don't remember a lot about these, so I'm just going to skim over. But that was like a 3.5 star for me. I did pull out my laptop and look up my review for this one. So I put, this was a cute and spooky haunted middle grade story that I think lots of kids would really enjoy reading in this season. What I liked about the story is the mystery behind Tess's house, the themes of friendship and adjusting to a new home or city being the new kid. What I didn't like was the audiobook. I wasn't crazy about the narrator's voice for Nina. The synopsis on the back of the book misled me just a little. The mannequin was actually a ventriloquist dummy and Tess wasn't necessarily connected to what was going on at the house like I thought she was. And I felt like the way Tess's parents were not only very unconventional, which was pointed out, but borderline unbelievable, especially for a kid her age. I do remember that, like, there were kids kind of running amok in the town and like the parents didn't really wonder where the kids were. So I don't really remember what this book was about. And obviously me telling you all that is not helping you with anything with the synopsis, but basically it's about a girl unraveling a centuries old mystery after moving into a haunted house. And that's basically what it's about. So, okay, I'll try to do better with the other ones, but that is bottom of the totem pole. Then the next one up was also a 3.5 star, but it's What Lives in the Woods. And this one is about Woodmore Manor. This is this manor in the woods, and it always seems like something's watching. This girl is from Chicago, and she is taking this month-long trip with her family to Michigan. And while they're there, they're in this like huge mansion with 26 rooms. It's a century-old building. And the locals claim that the surrounding woods are inhabited by mutated creatures that escaped a mad scientist over 100 years ago. And some say campers routinely disappear, never to be seen again. So there's like some stuff going on. This one definitely has the spooky vibes. Again, her atmosphere is just incredible. Definitely has great haunted house vibes, and I don't want to say any more because I could spoil it, but that is also a 3.5. And then next up is going to be, I think this one. I think The Girl in White. So The Girl in White is going to be next up. This is a 4 star, and the remaining books that I'm going to mention are also 4 stars. So you already know what this one's about. The one up above that is this one, and this is the creepiest cover of her so far. So this is called It Found Us, and this story is about a girl detective who must decode a series of ominous clues tied to a century-old tragedy to find a missing teenager before it's too late. This one is the graveyard one. This is the one that's set a lot in the graveyard. There's elephants on the cover of this. That plays into the story. There's a little bit of like a circus element. This is the 4th book that I've read by Lindsay Currie, and it might be my favorite of hers. Spoiler, it's not. But the reason why, and I'll tell you, it's in the trigger warnings. So I said I'll have to reread Scratch to solidify that though, so you know what's coming up next. Lindsay is great at writing heartwarming horror stories that are steeped in history. That's another thing I love about her books. They're always steeped in local legend and lore. There are terrifying moments, but there are always moments that make you want to say the story was also sweet. If that sounds up your alley, then I'd say give this one a shot. I love that our main character Hazel was like a little Nancy Drew or Harriet the Spy. I also enjoyed Dan and Maggie's characters. They made a great team of sleuths. This was a very atmospheric story with a spooky graveyard, storms, and a sinister game of hide and seek. Definitely a lot to enjoy here. Also, the friendships is another good thing about her book. She always does friendship groups really well. The trigger warning I put on this book is for possession. And I don't like possession in books in general, because I believe that's something that's real, and I believe like the demonic is real. Like if you have been here on my channel a while, you know that I'm a Christian, and so I do believe in like spiritual warfare. I do believe in angels and demons. I believe in all that stuff. And I don't like it in books in general, so I was surprised when it was in a middle grade book, because I feel like that's a very heavy topic for kids. It wasn't until the end of the story, but it was in the story twice towards the end, and it just disturbed me a little bit. Had that not happened, this might have been like my favorite Lindsay Currie, but it wasn't. So the next up is Scritch Scratch, and I don't have a lot to say about Scritch Scratch. Scritch Scratch, that's so hard to say, was the first Lindsay Currie book that I ever read, and I read it with my middle grade book club back when I used to host a local middle grade book club with 8 to 12-year-olds in my area. And this is a ghost story about a malevolent spirit, an unlucky girl, and a haunting mystery that will tie the two together. So this girl named Claire, she's like not interested in the paranormal, but her dad runs this Chicago haunted ghost bus tour. And one day she sees a boy with a sad face and dark eyes at the back of the bus, but something's off about him, and then he disappears. So she's trying to uncover like a mystery around this boy. This also has history in it that I really appreciated. And so I don't have a review written on this one either, but this was a 4-star. And the last book that I want to talk to you about is actually not even a spooky middle grade. So Lindsay Currie kind of got outside of the box a little bit, I feel like, for what she typically writes. And she wrote a mystery, just a mystery novel, and it's called The Mystery of Locked Rooms. I got an arc of this book from Lindsay, and I appreciate that so much. I actually got to swap it around with some friends, and it was super fun to read this one. It came out earlier this year in April, so if you haven't read it, I highly recommend this one because it is my favorite of hers. Now, it is still just a 4-star, but I really liked it. So this is about this group of friends who end up breaking into this house. So it's like a fun house, escape room type deal, but there is a rumor that there has been a treasure at the end of this, and like everybody wanted to find this treasure. And I'm butchering the synopsis. I really should just like read the synopsis for you, because that would be probably much better than what I'm doing. It has been a while since I've read it, but I know they go through this place, and it seems it's not haunted, so it's not like a spooky middle grade, but they're trying to find this treasure. Crack the codes, find the treasure, escape the house. This is an action-packed adventure novel about 3 friends who team up to find a hidden treasure in an abandoned 1950s funhouse. So that's basically what it's about. This was such a fun time. I put, if you love escape rooms, friendship stories, mysteries, escape from Mr. Limoncello's library, because I had those vibes, heartwarming stories, fun houses, treasure hunts, the Goonies, and goats with lipstick, if you know, you know, then you should definitely pick up The Mystery of Locked Rooms. So this was such a fun read, and I just really enjoyed like seeing all the little puzzles and games and all that stuff. So that is my favorite of her books so far, and now you see where the one I just read fell into. Okay, now that I've talked your ears off, which hopefully you sped that up to like 2 times speed because I was a lot of talking, but I am getting ready to jump on reading sprints on Gwen's channel. Gabby's not going to be able to make it tonight, which I'm so sad about, because like we kind of created this whole thing for the 3 of us to get the gaggle of witches back together and be able to like hang out. But unfortunately, Gabby's not going to be able to make it, so it's just me and Gwen, but we're going to have a good time. I'm going to read this tonight. This is my last book for the Readathon, and so this is The Night Train by Lorelei Savaryn. I have given both of her other books 4 stars, and I've really enjoyed her work, so hopefully I will enjoy this one too, and I'll keep my streak going, or maybe this will be a 5. We shall see, but I'm going to hop on sprints with Gwen, and I'll update you when I have more things to say about my book. Hello, friends. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm really tired. Pumpkin Patch Day is always a fun day, but it's also always a day where I'm like pooped after. So you're getting me mushy brain, tired body, after effects of Pumpkin Patch Day. But I wanted to give you an update on, can I film today? On the night train. I read it last night on our reading sprints that Gwen was doing, and I got 64 pages in. I'm on chapter 6, and I'm really, really liking it so far. So I can't remember if I told you guys what it was about. I think I did, but it's about these twin sisters, and they travel around with their parents who do like this home renovation show. And I think they just do it through YouTube right now, but there's like a station that wants to pick up their show. And so they go to this house, which assumedly is this one right up here. If I can get it on screen, it's this little red house, which is by these train tracks. And this is where this tragic train wreck happened, where these two trains ran into each other and like 100 some odd people died. And they end up finding out. So another part of this story, I'm doing a poor job butchering the synopsis. Who knew with brain mush that this was going to go this way? The twins have a Nana who's recently passed away, and their Nana had this gift of being able to see ghosts, but also being able to like communicate with them and help them to like pass on, like if they had unfinished business. So if you know what Ghost Whisperer is, which this was a great show I watched growing up. I don't know if I would enjoy it as much now or recommend it now, but I mean, I feel like a lot of people would really love it. I just like, for personal convictions reasons, I don't know, but because it can get dark in some episodes, but it was really good. And so it gives me those vibes. I'm really liking it so far. There's like grief, and there's sibling dynamics, and there's just like, I don't know, like there's something about the way that this author writes that I just really, really love. Okay, this is not great lighting. There we go. Let's go back over here. My arm is getting tired. I should have just like propped y'all up somewhere, but I didn't do that. So you're just getting this. But I wanted to read y'all a little bit of the first page of this book, of the prologue actually, so you could get a little bit of a taste for this author's writing, but also because this just about made me cry. So it says, the world stops for a funeral. Everyone skips out on school or work and gathers at a funeral home or a church to honor the dead. They sing, they hug, they pray, and then, for most, the world starts spinning again. The kids go back to school, the grown-ups back to work. Time moves on. But the ones who feel the loss the most, they can't just go back to their lives once the services are over. Once the church ladies pack up the leftover sandwiches and Tupperware to send home with the family of the deceased. Even in the normal day-to-day things, the loss drags behind them like a heavy cloak. It doesn't let them forget, even for a second, that their world is never, ever going to be the same. I was like, are we trying to make me cry in a spooky book? I mean, but this is what I love about this author. She brings in real life stuff and handles it in a way that is still like easily digestible for children, but also like adults reading this, it hits hard. So I'm really enjoying it so far, and I'm hoping that I enjoy it. There was somebody that commented when I said I was reading this and said that there may be something in this book that gives me pause. And I'm like, what? Like, I didn't ask, but I'm like, oh no, I'm worried. So I don't know what it would be, unless it's just the ghosty thing, but like I knew that is in the synopsis. So we shall see. But I've loved this author's other two books. I said this already, I'm sure. I gave them both 4 stars, and I will do a ranking for her once I'm finished with this one too. That shouldn't take as long, but I'm gonna go ahead and read some more of this. And I assume I won't come back until I'm finished, because I don't want this vlog to be ages long, and I already feel like I've chatted a lot in it. So I'll let you know when I update you next, if I'm finished, or what you'll find out in like 3, 2, 1. I don't know how I've managed to do this, but both books that I have read have been like, I don't know if either of these stories or legends are based on true events or anything like that, because it doesn't clarify, at least not that I've seen in the author's note of the other one, and I haven't gotten to the author's note or the acknowledgments in this one yet. But with this story, as well as with the other one, there are reenactments of historical events or legends in both of these. So the other one was about Sweet Molly and what happened. She like lost her son he was like a ship captain or something, and she lost him to the sea. And they reenact like Sweet Molly's legend every year, which like, that is so sad. But this one is the night train. So there is this town is called Hush, which very spooky. But there is a reenactment of a train crash, which I'm like, why would you? I mean, I guess we reenact wars, so it's not completely unheard of to reenact hard things, but like, why would you reenact that? Anyways, so a lot of this is about, like, one of the things in here says that their teacher tells us we need to understand history, the good parts and the bad, so we can know how to do it better. And that's been said in both books. And I think in both books, the histories that are being presented are not true, or they're distorted, which honestly, like, there's probably a lot of parts of our history that are that way, because you are getting opinions. I think even when you have two people looking at a truth, you have different perspectives, and that can cause it to be warped. So I think that's a really interesting take. But I did not intentionally read two books that had historical elements weaved into spooky ghost stories with reenactments, but that seems to be what I've done. Sorry for the poor lighting, but I thought it would be interesting to share with y'all. I think I've mentioned before previously when I've talked about Lorelei Savaryn, like in other videos or posts, that the author is Catholic. And so she does sometimes incorporate her faith in books, but not in a way that's like, it doesn't make her books like Christian. It just is like incorporating characters or themes that might be received that way. But she has a character in this book named Weston. And right now these girls are trying to like light a candle to help a ghost find its way home. So not like a seance, which I'm glad, because like I wouldn't want to read this if that was in here. But it's kind of like what their Nana did before she died to help them move on, like they would light a candle. And Weston goes, "That's cool. We light candles a lot at Mass, or at least my parents do when they pray for the dead. They say that the smoke from the candles represents their prayers rising up to God. I like thinking that what we're doing is like a prayer, and it's reassuring to hear that other people do things like this too, even if they aren't exactly helping ghosts like we are. We're in the same arena at least." So I like that she's like just putting little tidbits in there. I'm not Catholic, but I can appreciate and respect like Catholic faith, and I appreciate that she like puts little hints of that in there. So that's where that's coming in right now. I don't know if it's going to come in anymore, but am I halfway through yet? I don't know that I am. No, not quite halfway through. I'm reading this really slowly, but I am still really enjoying it. So I may update again, and then I may wait till I'm finished, but I do need to finish this thing. I have to point out that there is a nod to another one of this author's books. So she goes, "Nat told me about a really vivid dream she had once, about a night she spent sleeping hours in a circus made of dreams that felt so real it took her days to shake it off." That's from the Circus of Stolen Dreams, and I love that she put that Easter egg here. All right, I have finally finished The Night Train, so I'm going to go ahead and review this book and wrap up my thoughts on this one, as well as do a Lorelei Savaryn book ranking really quickly, and then just kind of wrap up this vlog. So I ended up rating The Night Train 4 stars. Now, I want to preface this by saying that if I was still in my spooky middle grade era, if I would have read this around the same time that I was first discovering my love for spooky middle grade, even like a year or two after, I think that this book definitely could have been 5 stars. However, I just don't gravitate towards this type of spooky ghost story these days. So just keep that in mind, that honestly, like, this could have been a 5-star, and it technically, I guess, like, objectively is a 5-star, but for me personally and what I enjoy these days, it's a 4. Now, all of Lorelei Savaryn's books are 4 stars for me, so ranking them is going to be incredibly difficult, but we will get to that in a second. I do want to say that if you like Lindsay Currie's books, which we talked about earlier, if you like any of her books or the way that she writes, if you like her ghost stories and the way that she brings like historical stuff into her books, whether or not it's fictional or not, I know that both of these authors, at least her in this story and Lindsay Currie in a lot of her books, draws from real like historical legend or historical facts in order to incorporate different aspects of those things into their books. So I would recommend, again, if you like Lindsay Currie, to pick up The Night Train. Also, if you're a fan of the Cassidy Blake series by Victoria Schwab, the first book is City of Ghosts, then I think this would also be up your alley. So there are some similarities here where Cassidy Blake can kind of see through the veil and she can cross over to the other side when there are like thin places, and this is the same for these twins who have inherited this gift from their grandmother where they can see ghosts, and it's kind of like their role to help those ghosts to pass on to the other side and help them deal with their unfinished business. And Cassidy and them kind of have that in common. And then also Cassidy's parents, they have a ghost hunting show, and in this book it's not a ghost hunting show, but these girls' parents have like a home renovation show. Now Cassidy's parents believe in ghosts and don't know that she can see ghosts, and in this book these parents don't believe in ghosts. They kind of like were ugly to the nana that could see ghosts and were like, they don't believe this, and now their girls can see ghosts. So you've got that little bit of similarity though. So overall I really did enjoy this book, and I did kind of find out what would give me pause, and I don't want to say what it is because I don't want to spoil any aspects of the story for anybody that's interested in reading it, but just know that like for me, that the way that it was handled here and the way that it was talked about, I don't want to say it was grazed over, but like it didn't give me pause. Like it gave me pause because somebody told me it would, but it didn't like, I think I would have noticed it because I'm very cautious of what I read, but I never felt convicted to put the book down. And that's going to be different for each person. There are going to be some people that may read this book that feel convicted like, hey, I need to put this book down. But for me, the way that it was handled in the story, it still like felt very fantastical. And I think I also just kind of trusted this author because I know that she is a part of the Christian faith. She is Catholic, and like I mentioned earlier in the video, I'm not Catholic and I don't agree with everything in Catholicism. However, I can understand from her faith and like what she implemented in the story why she chose to do certain things and take certain routes and maybe touch on certain topics but not go into too much detail on them. So I can respect that, and I don't think that took away from the story for me. I think it added to it. And so again, I understand like if some people maybe don't want to delve into that, and if you want to know what I'm talking about, feel free to ask me. I just don't want to spoil the book, but I think this was safe for me, but just probably not. Again, like I don't read spooky middle grade a lot anymore, and I don't like ghost stories a lot anymore, and a lot of that is because of like, I don't want to say like a conviction to not read it, but like I just don't believe in ghosts. I believe in like demons. And so I don't want to like entertain that thought in my mind too much. So anyways, now I'm going to rank her books, and I do have all of Lorelei Savaryn's books. So the first book that I read by her was The Edge of In Between. And this book is kind of like a darker, but not too dark, not until the end, Secret Garden reimagining. It's about this city of Vavel where everybody lives in Technicolor. Like there's so many vibrant colors all around, but then there are some people that end up becoming living gray, and a lot of them become that way because of grief, and they let the grief consume them and they don't know how to move past it. And this main character, she loses her parents, just like the girl in the Secret Garden. That's not a spoiler, it's at the very beginning of the book on both. And so she, in this story, she had a different relationship with her parents in this story than the girl in the Secret Garden. That was a little bit different. So she's like really grieving and starting to become living gray, and she ends up going to stay with her uncle in this estate that is in the or it's on the edge of in between. So it's between the land of the living and the land of the ever after, and she's kind of like searching for her parents. She meets other people there along the way, and I don't want to say too much more than that, but that's kind of the premise of the story. So I really enjoyed this one and gave it, like I said, all these books are 4 stars, and I've read this one twice. Once I read it with my middle grade book club, and the second time I read it with my co-host for Readathon one time. So, and then I read The Circus of Stolen Dreams earlier this year because I knew that I wanted to pick up this book, and so I wanted to make sure I read her backlist first. And I was so pleasantly surprised by this one. This one is about our main character. Her name is Andrea, and her brother Francis disappeared, and she just can't get past it. Like her parents, I think it's approaching, I don't know how long. It's like, I don't think it's a 1-year anniversary, or is it? Maybe it was it 3 years ago? Maybe it was 3 years ago. Anyways, it's an anniversary of her brother's disappearance, and her parents are kind of like at the point where they're ready to get rid of his stuff and move on. And Andrea is just like still upset because they never found out what happened to her brother. So one day she finds this letter, and it's from Reverie. It says, "Land of Dreams, come and join us, come away, forget your troubles, come and play." And this is a story about a girl who goes into this whimsical dream world, and there are circus tents where you can go in and experience like dreams, and you can fly, or you can see pirates, or there are also nightmares. There's also memories you can go into. And the one thing about Reverie is you have to trade something in order to get inside. And Andrea decides to trade a pretty important memory in order to enter into Reverie. And once she gets inside, she learns that Reverie is not what it seems. So that's kind of the premise of this story. Again, all of the books that I've read by this author have been 4 stars. This one in particular deals with grief, and I love that she incorporates that in her books. And then this one kind of deals with how truth can be distorted and how it's important for us to always share truth. It's important for us to revisit history and remember it correctly so that we don't repeat it. But I think there's also, like, there was a quote that I wrote down, but I don't remember what page it was on now, that I really enjoyed about just like staying in touch with a part of your childhood. I can't remember. I'll try to like pop a picture of it up on screen or something, or you can just look at my Instagram or Goodreads review of the book, probably that, because I'm going to include it there. But that is in this one. This one didn't have as heavy of like a theme for me as the other ones did. It was more just like spooky, historical, like very much like what Lindsay Currie writes in her books. And then this one has a theme of letting go of things and not letting hardships in your life hold you back from living your life. And I feel like these two themes kind of were really similar, but I love that she does that. And ranking these is incredibly hard for me because, again, I'm not in a season of life where spooky middle grade is like at the forefront where it has been in the past few years of my life. So honestly, like all of these are good, and all of these are 4 stars, and all of these are pretty much on a level playing field for me. It just depends on what you want, what you're looking for in a book. Because, oh, I forgot to mention the end of this, something made me tear up a little bit, but I'm pretty sure that also, like, I had a very deep connection with the story, like the message in this story, and then this also made me teary out a little bit. So like, I don't know. It's really hard. Like I thought I was going to be able to rank these, but I really don't know if I'm going to be able to. They're good for different reasons. Okay. I think I'll probably rate them like this, but please know this is very, very loose and depends probably highly on my mood. So The Circus of Stolen Dreams, which was her first book. Okay. The publication order is my favorite. Circus of Stolen Dreams, The Edge of In Between, and The Night Train. But again, I think it really depends on what you're looking for in your book and which story speaks to you the most. And recently it's been this one, but man, they're all so good. They're all 4 stars, and I would highly recommend checking out Lorelei Savaryn. So now I'm gonna go ahead and wrap up this vlog. This has been a pretty chatty one. I've noticed that my last few have been. I do have a couple more vlogs coming up, but I think I'm probably gonna take a break from them. I've heard people telling me that they really want to watch like vlogs, like that's their favorite thing to watch, but I don't know that like I'm gonna put out the type of vlogs you want to watch unless you like chatty vlogs. But I feel like people tend to like the more aesthetic ones, and I just don't have like the time or the patience or honestly the desire to put that out into the universe right now. So I'm probably going to go back to just like sit down videos for a little bit and give myself a break. But I do have a couple of vlogs coming up. I'm going to be taking a trip soon, and so I'll have a vlog for that. And then I think my TBR will be the next video that comes out for November. So just know that, but hopefully this wasn't too chatty for you, even though I know it was really chatty, and you found some good recommendations. And again, I think both of these are great books if you like this genre, or if you're looking for something in this vein. Both of them were really great. They're both 4 stars, and I highly recommend both of those authors. But if you made it this far in the video, please leave a spooky little ghost emoji down below. And thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you all so much, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye, friends.